Behind the Cape. Just got done watching the Ahsoka teaser.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
I think it looks dope. I think it looks real good. I mean, I actually excited for something out of Lucasfilm. Surprise, surprise. But not. Even at Celebration, we kind of knew that was really like the only positive buzz coming out of that. Even with the Daisy Ridley announcement and the James Mangold dip into the origins of the Jedi, and it was really the only thing that had some tangible action or some buzz around it was the Ahsoka series. So the trailers have kind of followed up on that. The teaser followed up on that. I am cautiously optimistic. This is, post fall of the Empire. So we'll see how they adapt it. A couple things that could happen that might ruin it for me, but I'm just going to reserve my judgment for the show. We will definitely talk about it here on Behind the Cape for sure. And keep up with it and see how it's doing. I'll track it.
You had some news about Kathleen Kennedy seemingly needing to move some things around.
$15 million home in Malibu.
Yeah.
Getting sold. Yeah, man, it's not looking too good for your girl KK. So yeah, she is selling her house that is near the Lucasfilm headquarters, which is signaling to some that it may finally be happening. It may finally be over with the reign of Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm. That on top of the fact that there's been, ever since the epic fail of Indiana Jones there in June, that she hasn't been back into the office at Lucasfilm. That everything that wasn't already teed up and ready to come out, i.e. Ahsoka, has been dead halted. There were talks of some accountants or some higher level executives at Disney coming in and reviewing the financials. Surprise, surprise, they're sniffing around the Acolyte. That show, man. If we ever see a second of footage from that TV show, I feel like it is going to be the quintessential. It's going to be like the crescendo of the entire Kathleen Kennedy era at Lucasfilm. If it ever makes it to a screen, if it does, that will be it. That show for sure, because apparently they've sunk an unholy amount of money into that project already. And you seen the Acolyte teaser trailer? You seen it? No. And apparently they're kind of forced to release it somehow, even if not, like a day and date release where they just give all the episodes on the same day at Disney Plus. Because if it's not released on Disney Plus by a certain date, they lose it's like $6 or $8 million of a tax credit that they had in the UK for filming there.
Sheesh.
So not enough to make a difference in turning a profit, but certainly not something that you want to be even more in the hole on when you're $300 million down already for the television show.
Yeah. No, for sure.
A lot of stuff going on, man, but maybe she buying a new house in Malibu. Who knows? Rich people do stuff.
Sure.
But the timing seems very convenient to the rumors that she's not long for the office there.
Yeah. So, off of the success of Barbie, which we've talked about for the last couple of weeks or so, which is now at $1.18 billion.
Holy shit.
Mattel, as of the last couple of weeks, has mentioned that they are putting a lot more movies into development, to the tune of about 45 more movies, potentially. Some of the movies that they have publicly announced to be in development include Barney, Hot Wheels, Matchbox.
Yeah, Barney is the Daniel Kaluuya's.
Yep.
I'm really interested now.
Yeah.
Especially seeing the success of Barbie, right? Okay, so now if you give us an interesting concept, right? If it's not so heavily driven by the social message or whatever, maybe that's something that we can get into being the black community. You know, Barney, the voice actor for Barney, the guy wearing the suit was a black man.
Mm-hmm. Kaluuya is black.
Yeah. I don't think that the heavily forced social undertones is something that usually works with black people. We tend to lean more on like historical stuff, action dramas are good, sometimes horror. But like the very preachy, you know, kind of activist films like The Hate They Give, that's the name of that movie. See?
Yeah,
very obscure. Had to dig in the recesses of my mind to get there. That's kind of example of a way that you can go maybe with the Hate You Give. An example of the way you could go with a movie like Barney that I don't think is as susceptible, I think, to that. Because I think we're kind of over that type of like messaging. Like, we don't want to see Barney involved in no police violence or no shit like that, or have anything to do with slavery.
Yeah.
All right. So like, if you're able to incorporate our culture somehow into Barney to make us feel like we are being represented somehow through that character, I feel like that's the route to go for Daniel.
Like
Kaluuya.
how Barbie made women feel.
White women made white women feel.
White women, sure, absolutely.
Be seen, because they have been absolutely going nuts ever since. Been going crazy ever since.
Well, you can't fall for them for.
I mean, hey, go nuts.
Having a movie.
Go nuts. Do your thing. Do your thing for once.
So it's funny that you say that, because one of the movies that one of the products that they plan to make a movie off of is Uno. And from what I'm getting, the gist of this movie is it's supposed to be a bank robbery movie somehow based on the game of Uno. Not sure of the specifics of how it's supposed to be based off of Uno. Not sure. It was supposed to, I think it was supposed to star Lil Yachty. But Lil Yachty is somehow involved in said movie. Right? It's supposed to be based in Atlanta. It's supposed to have all these things. So it's supposed to be his, I don't know.
Bank robbery movie in Atlanta that is loosely connected to Uno. Okay.
However, supposedly, Mattel has already decided to distance itself from this movie because the script that they had for it was very fuck heavy. Not scenes, but it said the word fuck a lot.
Come on, man, that's easily fixed.
And so they gave back notes, and apparently they tried to change it, and there was only one like
F-bomb.
PG-13 fuck that was left in it. And
well, I mean, they fought a lot with old girl about that too, with Margot Robbie, about some of the things that they were doing with Barbie, and
yeah.
Apparently, they got into a shouting match about it.
Yeah, but homegirl Greta, apparently her agent cleared that shit up.
Yeah,
and they were like, "Yeah, no, we're doing it this way."
I guess, man. I Little Yachty to begin with, like, okay, so to be in talks or negotiations with Little Yachty, and then get to the point where you're backing out because he says "fuck" too much. I don't understand. It's like, yeah, let's do a movie with Ron Jeremy and then back out because he's walking around with the junk out. It's just,
yeah.
What did you bring him here for? What did you? I don't know if y'all knew this, but rappers cuss quite a bit, actually.
Yeah,
quite a bit. And I mean, I guess you could always go the Ice Cube route or the Are You There Yet, or the, you know, the Snoop Dogg PG model. But then again, that's not what, or at least I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, but it doesn't seem like that's what Margot Robbie was forced to do in her movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you've proven the fact that, like, yes, you're making these movies based off of childhood toys, but you're making them into films that adults can go out and enjoy.
Let's just be honest. Let's be honest. Barbie, Uno, even Super Mario, those kind of things are much more nostalgically tied to us in our generation than they are to our kids. Infinitely more. My son didn't know who Super Mario was before the movie. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And as much as I'm sure it's still a great selling brand, I don't think the Barbie doll is quite the phenomena that it was in the early 2000s or the 90s. I don't even think we're a toy company and we have these toy properties to make movies on, so we got to make children's movies. That's just very linear, and it feels like you're getting in line with Disney and Universal, where you can swerve where they're not, and fast track yourself to the new form of family entertainment that trends toward the adult side, but is also acceptable for kids. See, where the industry is now is that family entertainment is digestible content for the most amount of people in a household, but decidedly skewed towards the younger audience. And that's been the common way of thinking to do a family movie for a while now. And so that's the industry standard.
Yeah.
Where Mattel, I think, is started to break the mold with this Barbie movie is it's a family movie, right? It's acceptable for your kids to watch. It's acceptable for the adults to watch. But there was enough adult like dialogue or content or even messaging that it skewed more to adults than it did to the younger generation. Don't run from that.
Yeah.
Don't run from that. That is a very unique unison, right? Don't run from that. Plus, it's a lane that you and you alone are occupying.
Mm-hmm.
No one else is doing that. No one else is taking traditionally children's properties or old school children's properties, nostalgic properties, and remaking them for adults. Even Transformers, a property that has been around since the 80s, is still based or sculpted for a younger generation. Yep. Harry Potter, the books and the movies were kicking off when I was in elementary school. They're getting ready to reboot Harry Potter at Warner Brothers, right? Are they coming back with Radcliffe and Emma Watson and all that? No, they're not doing that. They're rebooting it with new actors. Mm-hmm. So no one else is doing it the way that Mattel is doing it. They should keep doing that. They should keep doing that.
And it would seem to me that like a movie based off of Hot Wheels, for example, would be the perfect movie to go against the Fast and Furious franchise and give us maybe something a little bit more serious and grounded as opposed to going and racing in space.
They're making money hand over fist. They don't give a shit what you say about the movies or the quality.
No, I get it.
And Vin Diesel is the perfect guy to head it up because he doesn't have an ounce of embarrassment in his body. So it's just a happy marriage.
I think
and sometimes you gotta let people be happy.
I think if you take Hot Wheels and you make it a grounded, maybe street racing movie.
I don't think Hot Wheels will ever be a thing while because that's both they'll be made under Universal. I'm thinking, right? No, Hot Wheels is Mattel.
Yeah, it would be under whatever Mattel was made under, whatever Barbie was made under.
Oh well, you know what? I do think that they would do good to launch that post Fast and Furious because now you get into a game of comparison. If you're going to make a adult-ish race car movie, you're going to be compared to Fast and Furious. Yeah. Now, Gran Turismo is coming out pretty soon. We'll see how that movie does. Maybe that'll be a good measure.
Gran Turismo is a little bit more professional.
Well, it's the story about the kid who actually like went from playing the game to being a Formula One racer.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Mattel has a lane here, like you said, and they have a bunch of just different products. I feel like they can go into different lanes, honestly. But starting off with the Uno thing, because it had too many F-bombs in it, learn from the mistakes that you had early on with Barbie and then how Barbie eventually came out and then make another good
way
movie.
To $2 billion.
This should be a cash cow for you. Just saying.
They can make up another $200 million in licensing now because look at what Barbie is doing. So for comparison, And I really hate to keep bringing this up. I really don't, because it's absolutely ridiculous, and I never shudder at the chance to show y'all how ridiculous it is. That Disney paid themselves $70 million to license Black Panther Wakanda Forever on Disney Plus. $70 million. That movie barely cracked $800 million. Barbie, $1.18 billion. So then what do you think Barbie's going to be able to command? 100, 150? Right? And then Barbie's not tied to one streaming service.
It's not going to go on Max?
It was Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it's going on Max. It's going on Max. But it'll also be on linear. They'll also license it to TBS and TNT.
Yeah.
Where you got video on demand.
Mm-hmm.
That'll probably be the only streaming service. Maybe stuff like Vudu or shit, but all that other stuff is pay for
YouTube,
Amazon, but all of that stuff
yeah.
is video VOD. It's video on demand, pretty much.
Yeah. Speaking of doing numbers, Oppenheimer is at
the
600
Oppenheimer
million now, and supposedly entering the top 10 box office for any movie rated R.
Good for them, man. Who would have thought that a movie called Oppenheimer, featuring Einstein and a bunch of other smart people, would do so well?
Not me.
Is Disney being sold to Apple, or is Disney going to sell some things to Apple?
Fam, I don't know what's going on right now, be honest with you. Like, will they sell a piece of Disney to Apple? ESPN, one of the linear channels. They have to do something, because the prospect of them turning a profit this year on anything other than maybe Elemental or Guardians probably turned a profit. But that's it. I could see them either selling one of the linear markets to Apple, something like that, ABC, ESPN, the Freeform, FX, because they have to pay Comcast for Hulu. That bill is coming due, and they don't have it. I don't see them outright selling the entire company to Apple. That makes Apple too big. I don't think they would allow that. I think they would make them break Disney up to a certain degree before they would allow that sale to go through.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what do you know? Mission Impossible has made $500 million.
There you go.
That's not bad.
It's under what they were hoping.
Yeah, for sure. People hate this new version of Snow White. It's already happening. Like you said earlier before we started shooting, she seems to be going the Brie Larson route.
Here's what's kind of frustrating about, not even her in particular. I've only seen the one interview ever, but just kind of like actors nowadays. I think that they think for some reason, because maybe it's because they're in Hollywood, but they feel as though that their jobs preclude them from pleasing the people that they sell things to. And it seems like everyone in that industry has that attitude. Everyone from the actors to the actors are going back and forth with the fans over depictions or statements made about characters and stuff like that. And somehow those actors don't feel like they owe anything to those people, or they don't have to adjust their language when they're speaking publicly about the product or the character that they're portraying. And then the writers have the same fucking attitude. It's like, do we really have to serve the fans and their expectations? Do you really want money from the fans? I like what? That's the most ridiculous quote I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And the executives and the producers think the same way. We can only give you the movie we can make. Well, then maybe you're not the studio that I should pay. What? When did this become a relationship of take what you get? Take what we want to give you. And then obviously, you could not have a more clear example of how it's failing than an $84 stock price for Disney.
You know when it started being like that? When people just started accepting that Marvel is God.
When people started shilling.
Yeah.
When people started shilling.
Kevin
You gave
Feige's
them the
genius.
idea that you would eat anything that they shat out.
Yeah.
And that's what they began to do.
Mm-hmm.
They created a machine to give you regular Marvel content regardless of quality. And so now that's the model and that's the ideology that was spread throughout the employees and the workers and the actors. Now that it's not working, it's our fault. It's the consumer's fault. It's the people that are supposed to be shelling out whatever surplus of money that they have in the middle of this terrible, real, actual economy for working class people, right? We're supposed to be shelling out dollars for subpar Disney content. And just taking whatever it is you feel like you can give us at the time. Like, fam, that's not a thing. And so, old girl, coming into a property, a story that has been in a American literature for almost a century, right? And so your thought process, being one of the first or one of the most prominent live action reiterations of that tale, is to basically trash it, right? As antiquated, patriarchal, misogynistic filth.
Basically, distance yourself
from the core of what the product is.
Yeah.
Lady, no one cares that you feel that way. And I'm not even sitting up here saying that you're wrong. What I'm saying to you is that the people who are connected to the Disney 1939 Snow White cartoon are trying to come and see that on screen. And so if you're going to come out here in interviews and say, yeah, that shit's old and it sucked, we're going to do something different, you are immediately alienating a large percentage of people who had any level of expectation for what Snow White was. You have to be able to understand what the property is before you just start running off talking about what you think it should be. It comes off as tone deaf and a bit arrogant because you think you can just do whatever and it's going to work out for you because you're right and everyone else is wrong.
And what's crazy about that is the fact that you're doing this now after we've already seen you do essentially the same thing with completely changing what the doors look like. So now you're doubling down on, we're just erasing the entire history of what everybody knows of Snow White.
And then also it's like, oh my, it comes off as faux activism when you're talking about fictional characters in that way. Right? Like, is there not a way to tell a traditional fairy tale without turning it into modern day gender war discourse? Right? Is there not a way to show a Prince Charming damsel in distress from a pure fairy tale and fantasy perspective and just take it for what it is? Is the mere assertion of that dynamic so revolting to you that you have to completely turn it on its head for it to be accepted by modern audiences? I don't think it is. I think you're overestimating the feeling that people have towards some of that storytelling in that realm, and you're trying to apply your political beliefs or your social beliefs to storytelling.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have a place. And it doesn't always make you right either. You could just be destroying a good thing. Because here's the thing. Snow White is not a real person. Snow White isn't a real person. The Prince Charming that came looking for her or whatever and saved her is not a stalker. Because he is a fictional fairy tale character.
This might be a hot take, but at some level, I feel like with the advertising in this movie, they're kind of leaning in quite a bit so into having people call this a woke mess. And so
don't do that.
And I don't want to use the word woke, but literally everywhere I look for any kind of information on this has that word in the headline. And I feel like they're leaning into it to try to drum up what publicity they can for the movie and rile people up and get them to talk about it.
I don't know if I agree. What I can say is that I think they are so deeply entrenched into their process and their ideology that they can't get away with they can't get away from it. right? They can't just make a good movie with a good story because that is just not what they are doing in the company as a whole right now. That is not, storytelling is not the focus.
Sure.
It is diversity by numbers. That is the focus. It's anti-masculine. It is diversity by numbers. It is things that I can say specifically without lambasting it with woke.
I guess the only reason I feel that way is because literally, what else have you heard from this movie besides they're not dwarves. The Prince Charming isn't actually a love interest, and Snow White thinks that the Prince Charming was a stalker. It's just like, I don't think that you should be making films that are based on properties from the 1930s if that is how you feel. There's a whole indie circuit for you to make the type of movies that you want to make. There are studios that would love to have you, but no, you accept the Disney check. Well, lady, the Disney check comes with playing these patriarchal characters. Yeah.
That's what they want. You are selling content to Eurocentric Christian value pushers. Mm-hmm. That is what the Disney fan base is at its core.
Sure.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
Hardcore Bible thumping Christians. That's what they are. You're not going to be able to escape that. And so for somebody to take a check to sell to that crowd and then say this on the back, it's like you don't want the money. You don't want it. You don't want it.
Yeah.
That's not how they think. That's not how they digest their content. And at the end of the day, you are selling shit to customers. You are not teaching a class. You are not actually doing activism with your work. If that's what you want to do, donate all your proceeds to a cause.
Nope.
If that's what you want to do,
absolutely not.
Why don't you get on the front lines of some of these social issues that you feel like are such problems in our society? No. You'll take a check and talk about it on the red carpet.
Yeah, to make myself look good.
Come on, man. What are you doing?
Making myself look good.
Have you not looked at the rest of the properties in your company right now and just see, like, you know what? Let me just ride the wave. Hubris, arrogance. I don't know what else to call it.
For sure. Absolutely. Nia DaCosta.
Oof. Oof.
Said some things about her upcoming Marvels movie that Marcus didn't like, and he retweeted it on our Twitter page.
I don't know if that was her speaking or if that was Kevin Feige's hand up her butt. It was such a bad quote, it felt like a troll. The one thing that's different about the Marvels is that it's wacky and silly. Sis, are you trying to send us a message? Are you trying to tell us something? Are you trying to tell us that Feige is in there and he has essentially changed your film back into the run-of-the-mill MCU mold? Because there really isn't a serious person who's ever watched a Marvel film and thought that making it silly was making it unique from any of the other Marvel films.
I don't know. I would love to see the Marvel's Love and Thunder.
But what's funny is that that's what everybody's go-to, right? Like, oh, it's going to be another Love and Thunder. That's what everybody went to automatically.
Sure.
Off GP.
Sure.
But we can go back a lot further than Love and Thunder.
Absolutely. That's just the recent epitome of it.
I mean, we can do a lot more than Love and Thunder. Was Ant-Man not overly goofy?
Yeah.
Right? She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel at certain points. Mm-hmm. Hawkeye. Loki.
At points.
Where my man got kicked in the groin over and over and over again. I wonder if we're ever going to see a female superhero get punched in the boob. Like, just because. Like, she says something smart to somebody, and then one chick just straight jab, a Bud Crawford right to the areola.
Nope.
We ever gonna see that?
No.
No, but male genital assault repeatedly in what's supposed to be a children's film. It's funny. It's a hijink.
Duh.
You not dumb. No, you're not dumb. I mean, you have a job at one of the most prominent studios in all of the world. You're not slow. I know you've seen Marvel content before. What do you mean? That's you? No, see, I don't believe that's her. I don't believe a reasonable person would be able to distinguish comedy or humor as something unique about a Marvel film. They're all that to a certain degree. They all have a essence of that, of silliness, of wackiness. So like, I just think she's maybe trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just trying to say, hey, listen, y'all, it's going to be exactly what y'all think it is. What you want me to do?
Yeah.
What you want me to do?
Yeah, Kevin Feige was here literally every day. There's nothing I can do about it.
It's got to be. It's just an unserious quote. It's tone deaf as hell.
Yeah.
So maybe. Also, we don't know how the question was asked.
Sure.
Right? Sometimes that stuff is left out of context. So maybe that's part of it too. But boy, that is not a good quote. Not a good quote at all.
I can't wait to see how goofy Tiana Paris gets
in this one. And then, okay, you can say what you want, Nia DaCosta. I am not coming for you. I'm not coming for you because I know about at least half, if not 75% of this movie was not your final decision.
Yeah. Yep.
I just know that is the standard, not just at Marvel, but at Lucasfilm and most places where independent writers are brought in to fill these scripts.
Realistically, your name was brought in to be a name, and
to be a name.
We are making this movie.
You were a popular name at time in Hollywood. You black. You're a woman. It looks great for them to have you on this movie with 3 women leading it, right? But they were never going to let you do what you wanted to do. You were going to stay firmly within the box of what they wanted you to do. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's just what she's saying. Like that, it feels, I'm a very sarcastic person, and I'd like to think that I can identify sarcasm where other people maybe sneak it in. That feels like sarcasm. You'd have to be either a moron or totally disconnected with how the general audience feels about the movies nowadays to give that quote.
Sure.
Or you know exactly what you're saying, and the people that know.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're saying, and the people that know. So let's hope that is what it is. But I'm turning my attention to Kevin Feige. When this shit flops, and it definitely feels like it's going to flop, I'm turning my attention to Kevin Feige. We're not playing this game no more. It's not the directors, because you don't let them direct anyways. It's not the writers, because you don't let them write. You're constantly changing things. You have 3 or 4 different scenarios for every script. You shoot for all of these scenarios. You put a movie together, and then you completely change it in post-production.
Yep.
That is what's happening. There is no intricate plan. There is no ebb and flowing chart of what has to happen if this happens, or if we need to zig here, we'll zag here. No, we're just going to shoot 3 beginnings. We're going to shoot 3 middles. We're going to shoot 3 ends. We'll piece all this shit together in post-production to make a semi-digestible movie. And that is why all this shit costs $350 million. You don't let the writers write. You don't let the directors direct. You are the Pied Piper of all of this. So when it goes belly up, we have no choice but to turn it back on you. It's on you, bro. There's been rumors of them testing test screenings for different versions of the movies that have come out. Aquaman, apparently, the reason why we have so many leaks on Aquaman is because they've screened it like 33 times.
What?
Yes, they screened it like 33 times, and it's been varying different versions of the movie.
And it's just not working.
And so when you do screeners, they usually try to keep like maybe the staff's family or the actual like cast or crew, not the cast, but like the workers, VFX artists and stuff like that. Maybe have them go watch it and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Families of the company. But when you screen it that many fucking times, nobody. Yeah, you show it to me maybe once or twice, I'll shut up. Yeah. Just so that I can come back around. You show it to me 33 times, I'm assuming you showing this shit to everybody. Much less likely to keep my lips closed about it, you know?
Yeah. Something's bound to get out about it that many times.
So, hey man, when are we going to start talking about who else's job maybe needs to be up for consideration? Because here's the thing, man. Everybody wants the MCU to change. I know we had there was a little bit of a kerfuffle last week about whether or not we actually wanted to reboot. It was, I'd say it was close to 50-50, maybe really 60-40. But it was, some dissenting opinions in there about rebooting for various reasons. But we all agree that we want something different than what we're getting now. I think everybody's on the same page as that, right? But that doesn't happen without a change in direction. Changing in direction doesn't happen without a change in leadership. Just like y'all wanted something different out of Star Wars and Lucasfilm, you want something different out of Marvel. You need to come to terms with the idea that maybe that doesn't happen unless the leadership changes.
Yeah.
Right? Nate, Kevin, whoever is still there, the last guard of the old regime, right? Because, we're down a lot of people now. Perlmutter, Alonzo, a lot of people gone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we just need to start coming to terms with that. Like, this isn't going to change while Kevin's still there.
Yeah. Yep. Good chance of that.
And here's the thing, too. Kevin goes now, right? He walks, or you fire him. I think maybe in the middle of phase 4, the worry would have been, oh, well, shit. If we let him go now when we're in the middle of this bad time, we'll still be trying to climb out of a hole while he's building somebody else's franchise up. Where's he going now? Now that Gunn is at DC, where's he going? Where you going?
Mattel.
Okay. Let him go. Let him go. No, dead ass. If he's going to go to Mattel, even if he has success at Mattel, it has absolutely no bearing on what we should be able to do in the superhero genre.
Yeah.
He's going to be forced to either go to one of the tech companies and try to get their studios going, or he's going to go to somebody who's doing something outside of the sci-fi superhero genre, in which case, who gives a shit? So if ever there was a time where he can't go to your biggest competitor in a place where he probably has wanted to be for a long time, even still, because he's more of a DC fan, I believe. If you listen to him talk about some of the characters, he's more of a DC fan than he shows he is a Marvel guy. He's one of those guys that thinks Man of Steel is one of the greatest superhero movies ever. So that's a Superman guy.
Yeah.
That's a Superman take. He can't go there right now. Saffron and Gunn are there.
Yep.
So if you let him go now, he can't hurt you. And you wouldn't mind seeing him have success wherever he ends up. But yeah, man. Hey, look, Nia. I'm not going to blame you. I'm not blaming you, man. I just have a feeling that this is the standard now. This is not so much about the individual writers or directors as much as it is because their projects don't look like that elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
James Mangold's movies do not look like what we just got out of Indiana Jones 5: Dial of Destiny. His films literally do not look like that. Rian Johnson's films do not look like The Last Jedi. They don't. There's so much better films than that. Nia DaCosta, right? She's made films that are better than what I believe we are going to get out of the Marvels. Just where I'm at right now.
Fair enough.
So like it can't be so much of like, oh well, they're hiring, they're hiring writers that aren't worth shit. Well, maybe, but then again, these aren't shit writers are making some of the best stuff outside of the hero genre. Glass Onion was one of the best movies I've seen all year. Still. So, I don't know. Let us know what you thought about all the stories. Put your comments in the prompt below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Come back. We'll talk about this kind of content every week on Behind the Cape. Entertainment news mostly. So, come back and check us out.
Absolutely. And make sure that you check out our previous video that we did on whether or not the Marvel Cinematic Universe should reboot. Kind of had a nice lengthy discussion about possibilities and things of that nature as it pertains to that. And then make sure you subscribe. Like he said, we like to do this every week.